15, 9, 12, same thing.
And we are back with another episode of Ronin's Den. We got, as always, the co-host Dragon X and our good buddy Fry from the Night Below game. And we're going to be talking about world building tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to the Dragon because he is the much more prepared of the group at the moment. Yeah.
That's a stretch. Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. Anyway, we want to talk about world building. I had a couple thoughts a few weeks ago that I've forgotten, and now we're going to start from scratch with all of that. So I guess I'm running this show today. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about world building. And I'm going to start with you, Fry. I'm going to put you right on the spot. What is your favorite method of world building?
I'm a very top-down world builder. So I like to start with a question or a thing that's different, or just like something that distinguishes like the world that I'm making from every other fantasy knockoff world TM. Um, and uh, and a lot of times I will have my central tension of most of my games that I run in that world be around that. Now there are exceptions to that, but generally that's what I do. The world that I mostly run in is a game called Nexus. Is a world called Nexus that I made, and it's called Nexus because it's an interplanar nexus. The idea of the world is it's a broken off piece of Sigil after it got destroyed millennia ago because there's no Sigil in my world. And I know that doesn't make sense with actual Planescape, but you gotta keep in mind that I like half read something, forget about it, remember it 6 months, and then like
makes more sense than the Planescape that's out now.
So
I have this. Nexus has all these portals to all the different planes, and because of that, people want to use it because it's no longer under the protection of the Lady of Pain. So it's like, hey, if we take Nexus, we can invade like this other plane, use it as a roadmap. So constantly having incursions from the outer planes is generally what my games are about.
Okay, so your world is more of like a large, more cosmos type thing. Like your games tend to have implications on the entire multiverse as opposed to like urban. Or do you have some urban? Like where do you find that medium there?
Well, I tend to start really low and then just like foreshadow. Like let's say that Demogorgon, like that. I want the big boss of my game to be the Demogorgon. One of the big powers in the abyss. I would start the game by the players deal with a cult, like a small cult to some demon lord that is underneath Demogorgon. And after that, they'll stick around, go in different places, do different things, and every once in a while, this theme of like demons are popping up starts showing up. They'll do normal fantasy nonsense. I tend to run sandboxes. So they'll run around, go to different cities. Maybe they'll do street by street play for a bit. And then we'll do an arc where there's something that ties back to the original plot. Maybe they're trying to find, maybe there's some villain organization that's trying to find parts of a portal that'll make a permanent gateway to the abyss, or something like that. And that'll just pop up every once in a while.
Okay.
And then,
so you're definitely more of a start small, building to a bigger, but when you're building your world, you definitely started with that major theme of this is literally a piece of sigil that now everybody wants, because why not? I mean, you're going to definitely want that if you're a cosmic entity. Hey, I want to invade hell. There's a portal there that is literally not protected. I'm going to go there.
Yeah, I like starting with this grand like cosmos thing, and then that'll influence everything. And then I start bottom up, and I start, with my villages, my cities, and go from there.
So I guess one of my thoughts on that, and my question is, how do like the gods feel about that? Like this nexus plane, like this nexus. How do they feel about it? Because like if there's all these different portals and it's not protected, like one of the main things about Sigil is that the Lady of Pain literally keeps every god out at the same time. Nexus is pretty much that without the protector there. So how do the gods interplay with that? That's the type of world building I'm interested in. Like how do the big names like Asmodeus from Hell, whoever's in charge of Mount Olympus or Mount of Heaven, like how do these big name, unknowable, unkillable entities feel about this, and how are they trying to utilize it?
So I grew up with the Percy Jackson series, which like is all about demigods and gods. And the gods in the Percy Jackson series are a lot lower power level than the base assumption of D&D. And I kind of kept with that when I moved out of like young like kids fantasy reading into like making D&D world. So I just downgrade the power of my gods. They're not all powerful entities. There are rules they have to follow. It's very hard for Asmodeus or fucking Lathander to set foot on a planet, on the material plane. It takes a lot of effort to do it.
Okay.
And there are these
So
three like over god, creator gods that enforce the rules.
okay. See, like in my cosmos, the gods are literally like these. They're not all powerful. Like they're not like the Christian God who's all powerful, all knowing, and all that jazz. Not to get religious there, but like the concept
Yeah.
of an all knowing, all powerful God. But the gods in my setting are definitely like the most powerful beings in the universe. So a mortal isn't ever going to be able to feasibly kill them without help from another power. So I guess I have to look at it in the perspective that yours are more mortal than mine. Because like that's kind of the way I've always viewed gods.
I keep that to some extent, but I looked at that and I was like, well, then why aren't the gods? Why haven't the gods won? Why haven't they defeated the demon lords? Why haven't they like? Why haven't they done these things? So I downgrade my gods to the power of Asmodeus, who is not technically a god, or to Demogorgon, and I up Demogorgon a little bit, where these entities that have the ability to take over a section of an outer plane are all about the same power level. They're all CR like 40 something.
Okay.
Because
Have
if
anything to add, Duality?
So I do
that's just
mine.
the way I see it.
No, that's actually a really neat setup because the way I do my gods, I think it's more similar to you, Dragon. They're not omniscient, they're not omnipotent, but they actually, in my settings, they don't have a set power. Their power fluxes with how in favor their religion is. Gods on my world's power is directly tied to their number of worshippers. So if a religion is falling out of status, that deity is still going to be more powerful and unkillable than a player character group can handle, but it's going to lose power against the other deities. But an influx of worshippers could change that whole balance in, the course of a single conflict. A single battle could swing the power of the deities on my planet.
So
I
think
really like that. Sorry, Jerry.
so. I think with my gods, some of them are like that because I've did a video a long time ago explaining like how someone can become a god in my setting, and one of the ways that like a mortal can become a god is if they literally get enough people to worship them while they're still living. I kind of stole that from Matt Colville with his Ajax character. where he's actually starting to get like powers of a god because people are worshiping him that way. So that's one way to become a god. Another way to become like a demigod is to be granted the status of demigod from a god, and then you can gain power either through like consuming souls is one way, or getting worshippers. So there's multiple ways to godhood, but there are definitely gods in my setting that are very tied to worship. But like ones that aren't that I can think of is Asmodeus from Hell. He doesn't need worshippers. Evil people go to hell and he gets their souls. Like that's his power. He literally, any soul that goes there is his, even if other devils claim those souls. Like he is the all powerful entity in hell. So I guess like I have a very different, it depends on the god really. So I guess that's kind of the little difference I have there, where it differs from god to god.
Well,
I'm
with
similar
mine
to
too.
you
Mine are
because it
also
depends on what type, right? Like if you're the god of fire, you don't need worshippers. It's fucking fire, so it's gonna be there. But if
That's
you're
a good way to put it.
the god of courage in battle or steadfast protectors, you need paladins out there praying for you.
So what I was going to say was on mine, the gods are more. They have portfolios like in D&D, and they represent concepts. So if something doesn't have any worship to it, there's not going to be a god of stones because who's worshiping the stones? The stones aren't giving any power. The reason why there's a
The
god,
dwarves.
yeah. Well, the reason why the god of
Well,
fire
that's
on
more
my
of,
world gets power and worship is because they make it possible for flame to exist. If they start losing worship, fire starts becoming more scarce or doesn't behave the way it should. You would have to lose like all worship of anybody that worships fire is a thing. So very unlikely, but it is possible that the lack of worship could remove fire from the world. So
I
I
see,
do mine a little weird.
I come from a very different. I come from this very different perspective where, like, the difference between gods, demon lords, archdevils, and like elder primordials, the difference for me is title, and there isn't much of a difference beyond that.
So
Because I
Okay.
guess now that I'm thinking about it, in my world, there probably are gods as low as CR 23, and that's probably the weakest. Maybe probably closer to 25. I don't know. I haven't statted out that encounter, but like Vecna is a fightable. I feel like people being able to fight Vecna is fun, but Vecna is a god.
See, I kind of like the way that Critical Role used Vecna. That, like, you can't just fight Vecna. You have to find these very specific items to, like, weaken him enough to even challenge him. And that's
Yeah,
kind of the way I see. Like, I think there are some gods in my setting that are that way, but ultimately, like, if there's a god, is it really a god if you can kill it? And I think that's kind of the sake there. The classic line from Iron Man 2, if you can make God bleed, people cease to believe in him. I feel like there has to be at least some kind of reason that the gods are the gods and the demon lords are the demon lords. And so in my setting, there is kind of a power gap there where you're saying more, you're just like, there's not much of a difference, which
yeah,
is a cool concept, which I don't have any issue with that. It doesn't work with the way I think. So
no,
not knocking it, just it's very
no.
different.
There isn't one way to do it, and I think that's the big important part. There's not a correct way to do it.
oh, that's
Um,
so wrong. You're doing it wrong. You need to be told you're doing it wrong. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes telling you how you're wrong. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But
Yeah.
I like and I agree with you. Like, there should be different ways that you have to like depower this entity to do it. But I feel the same way about Demogorgon, where it's like you don't fight Demogorgon, you fight the avatar of Demogorgon to get the power gem of element. I don't know. The power gem of like monkey head howling, and you break that, and that takes away part of his power. Or
Well,
you know,
I like that. Like, currently in the game I'm running for my friends on Wednesday nights, it's determined now that the big bad evil guy is going to be Orcus. And I think the way I'm going to make it so they can actually challenge Orcus is before they can even damage him, they have to destroy his wand. Like,
yeah,
they've got to destroy that wand, because if they don't destroy the wand, you can't even touch him. And I think that's like what makes him so powerful. It's kind of like a Lich's phylactery, but with like a powerful demon lord. His power is coming from the staff. Why that is, I don't know. I'm not going to figure that out. But to me, that seems like a way to challenge them. Like, you're hitting him, nothing is happening until someone goes, maybe we have to kill the wand, destroy the wand in order for this to work. And I think that's like a way to make it interesting. Because I feel like if you've got these powerful entities and you make them not these unknowable, untouchable things, players are going to want to kill them. Like, this is just a fact. If you make it so that they can have a stat block, the players are going to want to kill them. So that's also kind of why I think I put gods in this other stratosphere, because I don't really want my players to kill the gods.
yeah. Well, I don't like having all the gods being good. And I feel like there's also consequences to killing a god. Like, what happens if you kill the god of fire? Is there no more fire?
Well, we have actual evidence of what happens to when you kill the wrong god in the lore of D&D. Karsus's folly.
Yeah.
Karsus? Yeah, Karsus's folly. He replaced the god of magic and didn't know how to hold the weave together and literally destroyed the Netherese empire. Like, it crashed in a single day because of his stupid decision. Like, that is the consequence of killing a god. Like you said, if you kill the god of fire, there's no fire. It's gone. One of the most important elements in our world is obliterated if you take out the god of fire. I like that concept. I agree that there should be a consequence to it.
Yeah, and that Karsus's folly is like I fully like when I was making my world, because Nexus it's not the only world I've made, but it is the first world, and it is the world that I keep coming back to and changing things and working. And so when I made it, I was like just stealing shit from books I've read and the Forgotten Realms and all sorts of other things, half remembering and changing it. And so I stole Karsus's folly.
It's only theft if your players recognize the reference.
Yeah, one of my players is a big like Forgotten Realms like lore scholar, and I piss him off entirely because like all of my not all, but like parts of my lore are different things that I stole from Forgotten Realms and then forgot. And so he's like, "Well, that's how that happened." I'm like, "No, it's not." And he's like, "Why?" I don't know. I forgot that part and filled in the blank.
Do they get really upset when you get the lore wrong?
They go, "Well, this is how it is," and then I'm like, "No, it's not," and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "I changed it," and they're like, "What?"
Okay.
Ah, shit.
We need to get them on the show and do a Forgotten Realms lore cast, but with us, only wrong statements. And we have to stick to our guns on that's the way it is. Like, have bad reference material, too. Like, on page 27 of Drit's Underground Guide. Yeah, we got to do that. I'm sorry. Let's get back to world building.
Oh, God. But, yeah. Karsus's Folly is actually one of my favorite, things that the Forgotten Realms does. It's one of those times that the Forgotten Realms almost gets interesting, and then fucks it up.
I feel like the entire story of Karsus's Folly, it is the one thing in Forgotten Realms, like you said, that I love reading about. Like, this guy was a prodigy. He was so powerful, so intelligent, and he made one mistake that literally almost destroyed all of existence. Like, how can you be that intelligent and that powerful and make that big of a blunder? Like, it's so fascinating that this perfect character makes one mistake and is erased from history. Like, people don't even want to talk about him because of it. Like,
I
we
feel
can't
like
have 12th level spells because of this one man.
we can't have anything above 9. Like,
Yeah.
we can't flip mountains upside down anymore, make them fly across the sky, and build cities on them because this fucking idiot didn't know how to solve a problem and decided to kill a god to fix it.
Also,
It's
have you looked at the material components for Karsus's the Karsus's avatar? You need the
the
gizzard of a
yeah.
Tarask, the breath
Um,
gland of a golden dragon. Like, this
that's the
was
one
some
I always think
insane
about.
stuff he was doing. I'm like
I
how is
want to
this?
run a game where like the players start at like 15th level and they have to go and they're doing this thing for this wizard and it's kept very cards close to the chest. And eventually they meet the wizard and they give him all these ridiculous spell components and then they get to stand there on the platform as they watch Karsus kill the world.
Oh my god, that would be the twist of twist. Like, oh, that I got to do that now.
And
Oh
then the
my
campaign
god.
picks up 2 years later and the party is all 5th level now, or 2nd level, or 3rd level. Because in my world, I took the concept and I ran with it. I felt like there weren't enough consequences for Karsus's actions. And so in my world, all magic stops working, not for a second, but for 3 years.
Dang.
And that has all sorts of implications because anybody who was held, I know that in one place in my world, there were a bunch of slaves who were held in place by magical, like, collars and stuff like that, and they just stopped working. And the people who kept control of them were all wizards and stuff, and now their magic didn't work.
Christ.
Empires across the world fell, not just the Netherese. And there were wizard purges because the world is fucked and it's all the mages' fault. Kill all the mages, and this spread led to wild magic spreading across the land, changing the landscape, infecting everything. And it's why all the biomes in my world don't make any sense. And I just love playing with that. And I just want to play a game that's like picks up 3 years after, just as Magix is coming back, just as people start being able to cast spells again, just as magic items just start working all of a sudden when they hadn't for 3 years. I think that'd be so much fun.
That would be an awesome concept. You look like you're deep in thought over there, Duality.
I want to steal
got?
that. I'm filing that away because that is an awesome idea, and I know I have an idea of how I want to make that, like, use that.
Honestly, you could do that in Fabula Ultima.
That's what I was thinking. Like the first game, like a first session, picks up as all of these long dead Magitech pieces of technology start coming back online when they shouldn't. Like, these things have been turned off. I wouldn't say 3 years. I would say longer. I'd be like, they've been off for like 100 years. And all of a sudden, these engines that used to power the city and give them steam engines and street lights and all these other, like, giant machines, like building-sized machines that did functions, just started coming back to life. And the only people in the city that have any idea how they work, and it's not necessarily the right idea, are these crazy machine worshippers that, this is how we did everything before. This is the machine that makes the food. And then everybody's like, yeah, you're crazy. That thing doesn't make food. You're out of your mind. Then one day it's like spitting out bars of food again. And it's just like, see, I'm not crazy, but now they got to maintain the machine. And if they don't know how to, all kinds of crazy stuff could happen. Just think of a malfunctioning food maker and the vermin that it could attract to the city. If it's not maintained right, things are spoiling. They don't have a place to store stuff.
I feel
That's
like a
really
lot of cults would pop up really fast. Like if one guy could make one machine work, he's the chosen one.
Yeah.
The gods have sent him. We gotta worship him.
Yeah.
See, this is why and this goes back to what I said at the very beginning, where it's like you base your world on an overall concept.
Yep.
So the concept being there was this old empire and their stuff is turning back on, and that's like the big central tension of the game. The reason I like 3 years is because it's fresh enough where everybody's still mad at anybody who can cast a spell, and it gives enough time where everything is kind of broken and kind of picked over. So it's perfect timing for like a survival game. Where tracking food and like wounds and stuff like that is really important.
Okay. But yeah, I definitely agree that like if you can get a theme of your game, a theme of your world, you can definitely spiral. Like look at that. We came up with a concept in like we've been going now 20 minutes.
20, yeah,
We
about a
got
half hour.
An awesome concept just from us bullshitting.
I'm stealing
which
it.
is going to bring me to the next thought I had. How much do the two of you invest in your players to add to your world? Like, I'm going to give an example real quick. So I was running a game for some high schoolers about 8 years ago. And I had like a general region map. One of my players, his name was Jacob. He comes to me, he goes, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking for my character." And it was a noble. He had all these ideas. I'm like, I don't have a town that fits, but I had this one little speck on my map. There was just this little town. I'm like, hey, that's your town. Name it. Tell me about it. Give me all the details. Write me something up. Give it to me. And if it checks out, just don't go crazy. Don't make them like world-ending threats or anything, but keep it kind of tame. And he brought it back. The town was called Degurchov after the Degurchov family. He was the last noble son from that family line, and they were the monster hunting family of the world. So like the main city, the prince and the king and all that would pay them to go take care of monster problems. Well, when the lizard men coming from the hills were starting to attack more often, the prince, because the king fell, the prince consolidated all the forces to the capital, leaving the town of Degurchov to fall. And they were wiped off the map, even though they requested aid after basically centuries of being the main like lethal weapon for them. And he wrote all this. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. He drew me a map of the town. He's like, we had a in-depth library that told you how to effectively kill most monsters. I'm like, dude, this is fucking amazing. Why are you not running a game? I'm like, I'm going to use this for the rest of my life. Like, this is fantastic. And at that point, I'm like, maybe I should be talking to my players a little more. Let them build the town they're from. Save me the hassle. They obviously have better ideas than I do.
Yeah.
So I show up to every game, and I've been running the last 3 games I've run have been in the same sandbox during the same time period in my world. And I show up, and there's 10 cities on the maps. For reasons I won't get into right now, small towns don't exist. There's just these 10 big cities, and I point at, and I'm just like, I will make a city district based on your character if you want me to. Some of these cities are very well fleshed out. I will add stuff. Some of these are like a page or two of bullet points, and we can add a whole bunch to them. I didn't know that I didn't know that the governing system in one of my cities had recently been overhauled until one of my players was like, "Hey, I want to be part of this government. I want to be the son of like a governing system that was recently overthrown. And I was like, cool. I didn't know that the main focus of one of the cities was this Colosseum and this very bread and focused vibes until one of my players was like, hey, I want to play a arena fighter, and I want it to be kind of a big deal that they were an arena fighter. And I was like, cool. We'll go from there. So I'll do a lot for players. In most games, not in this specific setting, I say it's like I will make a city. A small city is like as far as I will go, and the region around it. But you got to tell me before the game starts.
I'm a little different. I'm going to be doing this 180 when I start Fabula Ultima up. But for my homebrew D&D setting that I've been playing on and off since, freshman year of high school, maybe actually even earlier than that, I might have... I used parts of it from middle school, but it didn't really become a campaign setting till high school. That one, I'm pretty guarded and protective over what goes in it. But what I'll do is, instead of saying, all right, player wants to be a noble, well, they're not going to make their own noble house and stick it in the game. I'll work with them on, all right, tell me everything about what your character's like. And I'll say, okay, well, that fits really well with this part of the game world in this city with this particular noble house. Or if I don't have anything at that point that even resembles it, sure, we might put it in if we can figure a way to make it work. It just might not be in the particular city that they want. We might have to create a new city or put it in a different area of the world. But I used to be a lot more controlling over that sort of thing. Even if in 5th edition, subclasses, kits in 2nd edition, they were not just the Blade Singer kit. It was, the school of the fire-breathing tiger or something, where the style of blade singing used this particular weapon, used these particular spells. Everything was very in-depthly written out. But every campaign that we did contributed to that canon, and we would add as we would go on. It's just I would kind of control where in the world the things were and where they were originating from.
That's interesting. So that's a lot more, but that's a lot more of an established setting.
Yeah. So initially, it was actually going back to what I'm going to do for Fabula Ultima. It was, here's a map. I have named the campaign world. I have named the continents. You got to do all the other work. Because
I love that.
My normal style of world building for D&D when I start, or any similar game, I start with a town. And in that town, I'm going to come up with 5 notable businesses. And this could be any size. It could be a town, a city of any size. But we're going to name it. We're going to give it a theme. Coastal fishing community. What does its major trade look like? All right. Ships, fishing community. What are 5 notable businesses that are there? Like, if you were to be a player character going to this town, what are the 5 businesses that I could just rattle off right away that are important and worth going to see? All right. Who are 5 helpful NPCs or organizations the players could get in contact with or run into? Who are 5 hostile NPCs or organizations the players might have to contend with? And these aren't just mustache-twirling evil villains. It could be like, sure, the owner of the local pawn shop is kind of a jerk. He'll sell stuff to the players, but he's also a member of the Thieves Guild, and he has no issue cheating players or other people in the town out of money and doing some really shady stuff on the side to get the things that he wants to sell in his shop. So you might run afoul of him. Is he necessarily evil? No, but he could be a problem. What kind of government is there, and who are the major members of it? And then what's just the local religion? Like, if you're a fishing community, you're probably going to want to worship something with the sea. A beneficial, there's a good deity of the sea, there's a bad deity of the sea. There's probably a weather deity as well. And just who are those deities? What are their concepts? And those are just the names and the who's that I put in there, and it's just like, all right, build everything else. Here's your skeleton, do it. But Fabula Ultima, I'm going to go the complete opposite route. I'm not even doing any of that.
That's interesting. I haven't been making anything smaller than something the size of a capital for settlements recently. Excuse me. And so, for any city of notable size, so I'm not talking. I'm going to use things around where I grew up. I'm not talking like Roanoke. Roanoke's like a very small city, a large town. I'm talking like a DC or a New York. All of them has to have like a thing that separates it for me. Like why this one isn't different from generic fantasy city number 12.
Yeah.
And it's like this one is, and everything is built off of that theme. So I still use something very similar to your template. It's a lot less organized, but like everything is built around that theme. So one of the cities is, what's one of the cities? Gallatin is all about the fact that it's a city that's built on a ruins of a much older city, and so everything ties into reusing these ruins that we've built out of. The big wall that surrounds the city is where they have used magic and stone shaping to pick up or shift over buildings so that they all align next to each other. So that it's like this wall made out of like destroyed skyscrapers.
Okay.
And everything just builds off of that theme. So I still use your template. I still use like the 5 good guys, the 5 bad guys, and then. But I like having my theme be more fantastical.
Yeah. I tend to go for more grounded themes in my worlds. And I'll build, like, so my cities, the smallest I make my cities, quote unquote, are about 2,500 people, 1,000 to 2,500 people. But outside of those, I'm a lot more flexible. And those are your small towns and your hamlets and your villages. And as long as they fit the overall theme, we could say, oh, I grew up in a river town, like this far away from the Crescent Harbor, which is my typical fishing city. Okay, and we'll just drop that town right there, and it's like, well, what does this town do to support the city? Because it needs to fit within the theme. Oh, they make nets. Okay, so this is a city where people have really droned on to that net building trade. Yes. Okay, perfect. And all right, let's put that minor noble house here now. You know, you're not getting into the king's ball, but the local baron might invite you over for lunch once a month, you know, just to see how you're doing. Make sure the taxes are coming in.
Count something or other.
Yeah.
Or Sir, like the third son of like the local baron is like, well, I have to do something with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but basically what you're describing to me sounds a lot like the Matt Colville My Campaign Sheet. I'm sure you've seen it, Fry, but
I've seen it. I'm sure I've taken inspiration from it at one point.
I have gotta like start watching some of this guy's stuff, because it's like I say these things, people are like, "Oh yeah, Matt Colville does that." I'm like, "Who the fuck is Matt Colville? This is the way I've been doing it since 8th grade." Like, fuck. Why am I not this?
He's
famous?
also been doing it since. Because he made the videos before you did.
Right?
That's why.
Yeah.
Plus, he's kind of a showman. So he's very charismatic, and like I could literally like I'll put on a Matt Colville video just to like calm my nerves. Like I won't even listen to what he's saying. His voice is just soothing. It's this weird effect. Like I could listen to him talk. A lot of people say that about Morgan Freeman. Matt Colville is my Morgan Freeman. I could listen to him all day, every day, and just be like, this guy gets it, and have no clue what he's saying. So, but basically,
a lot of my DM philosophy comes from Matt Colville, or was shaped by it.
So his My Campaign sheet was basically designed for new DMs who want to start running a game but don't have the like massive world, and it's very much a bottom-up campaign thing. So it starts with My Campaign at the top. It tells you what is the name of your world. So, new player, what do you want to name your world? Oh, I don't know yet. Okay, go to the next thing. What is this area called? It's literally a local area, not a massive continent. Just what is this little area called? So let's call it Haldrim. Then it goes, what is the starting town? What is the name of the local inn? Who do we meet at the inn? What is the name of the main road? What is the local river? What local forest? 2 nearby hills, 2 nearby villages, and what's the big city in the distance? The government. Who rules the area? Who are the town elders? Which could also be who rules the town. The culture. What do the locals think about the elves, dwarves, halflings, humans? I always ignore that because I don't like that part, but it's classical. Then it goes to religion. Who's the god of knowledge, god of life, nature, storms, trickster god, god of war? Who is the expert and arcane in the area? Who is the local religious expert? Who is the most? Who knows the most about the area's history? Who knows the most about the local geography? Basically, it's a bunch of prompt questions for a new person who doesn't have like the skills to come up with this shit off the top of their head, and it just gives you some easy questions. I've actually found myself for a new area in my world pulling this up and going, this is so convenient. And
it's a great guide. A lot of the things he makes are things like that. Like I've fully used like I don't know, it's like one of his first episodes of the MC of his like how to get into DMing series is like the Delian Tomb, which is like a 5-room dungeon. I fully will pull that up while I'm DMing. It's like my players literally Tuesday were wandering through the woods and they ran across a red cap. And they were like, we're going to follow it back to wherever it was. And I was like, this was a random encounter. Okay.
Delian Tomb!
And I just changed all of the goblins to red caps and ran this 5-room dungeon for them. A lot of his stuff is really, really beginner friendly, but still useful to more experienced GMs.
And that's kind of why I like it. He actually got the idea for the Delian Tomb off of the book called The 5-Room Dungeon. It's a supplement. I have it. I'll send it to you after this chat. Basically, this guy wrote a book about how a dungeon doesn't need to be more than 5 rooms. So, like, the first room, I believe, is the Guardian. The second room is a puzzle. The third room is something. The fourth room is the main trap. And then there's like a room that could be the final boss, and then there's a fifth, either like the real boss or like something secret the players need to find. It's real simple to put together, and he gives you like a ton of ideas. That book has helped me tremendously because you can pick it up and be like, okay, I need an idea right now because my players are going into this tomb I didn't expect them to go into. Okay, first room, here's a guardian. Okay, boom. Next one, okay, boom. I love supplements that give me like a list of options that I can be like, okay, that's cool. Okay, that's cool. And it's very helpful. I find myself in my world building going to a lot of those sources to like flesh out the little details because I am very bad at the small stuff. Like the cosmos, the gods, the planes. Yeah, I got that all day every day. But what happens in this little city? Huh?
What's on 3rd Street?
Yeah, that's the type of shit I struggle with. And the final supplement I'm going to talk about right now that I begged for years, just a book that has pre-made towns in it that I can pluck and put in if I need to. It's called Spectacular Settlements.
I have that book. I have that PDF.
It is amazing, and it gives you charts to build your own town, village. city, capital city, fortress. Like when that came out, I was like, "Oh my god, this is what I've been screaming for 10 years. Give me this product cuz I hate building cities."
I gotta bring you over to
10,
a
20
Palladium
minutes.
game. Like you and me got to sit down one day and go through some Palladium book products. You would like. I don't know if you would like the game so much because I feel like it's not on the crunch level that you look for. But they have a lot of those things that you're talking about. Like, man, I wish I had this 10 years ago. They have building your own mercenary companies, building your own traveling shows, building your own towns, building your own space stations. They even have it up to building your own star systems, planets.
I know there's a game called Microscope where you
I've used
build.
it.
I have not. Where the game is you build a world with your friends. I have not played it. I've been meaning to play it forever, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
It is. When we used it for our Masks game on Sunday, it is an interesting thing, but it is very in-depth and very hard to like grasp. So we used a modified version of it, and it was more to build a timeline or like a series of events as opposed to a world. So like in our Masks game, such and such a date, a rift opened over Philadelphia. And that was the inciting incident of the world and the timeline. And from there, we all got to put like our own little things, like superheroes were allowed to join the military at this, or like this is when superheroes first started showing up, or people with powers. This is when they were allowed to join the military. Due to the rise in supers, the Giovanni crime family started on such and such a date. It's kind of like filling
Giovanni?
in a. Listen, nobody else got that reference if you understand that reference. No one in my Masks game got that reference. Please tell me you know what I'm referencing.
Look,
I'm going
I was a
Vampire the
Pokemon kid.
Masquerade.
No, it's
Okay, because
Pokemon.
it's a clan of vampires in the Vampire the Masquerade game, where it's a clan of mafioso Italian death mage necromancer vampires.
Giovanni's the bad guy. The bad guy in the 8th gem leader of the first Pokemon games, along with
He's the leader of Team Rocket.
Yeah, he's also in Gold and Silver, which is where I know him from.
Yeah. So
I'm old.
He was a Pokemon reference I threw in, but like that's what Microscope is. It's more like building a timeline as opposed to. I don't know if there's stuff to build the whole world, but the one what we focused on was the building of the timeline. Then we filled everything else in from there. What was I about to say? I don't remember. But Microscope, yeah, it was fun to do. It's a thought process. And the way it works is like, so I bring the topic. Let's say the Giovanni crime family. I put that main topic. Every other player gets to go around and add an event into that. So, like, the Giovanni crime family was founded using supers. Another person is like, such and such came about, such and such came about. And then you, who made that topic, get to put the cap on at the end. Like, you start it, you end it, everybody else fills in the middle. So it's collaborative, and it's really cool. It's just, sometimes what you originally thought when you put it on there doesn't end the way you thought it would because of everybody else's stuff, which is a cool.
You have to accept it's our world, not your world.
Yeah. So it can be tough to do that. Like, I intended the Giovanni crime family to be more involved, and by the end of it, it's like, they're not even going to show up. So, but So there is a game system, and Jeff Baker, who's going to be on the podcast in 2 weeks with us on the 14th, he remade a game called The Crypt Has Opened. It's not out yet. It's still in playtesting. The thing I love about this game, the game The Crypt Is Open, is at the beginning, you build a town together as players. Your town, basically the concept of The Crypt Is Open, is that the apocalypse was not a nuclear fallout or anything like that. It was literally the crypt doors open, and every cryptid you could ever imagine flooded into our world and basically wiped everything out. Now, little pockets of humanity are trying to recover from the apocalypse. And people gained magic to combat the cryptids and stuff like that. But at the beginning, you create your town, and it gives you prompts. So the one that we made in the last playtest I did, we playtested this town builder. We were a town with like 100 people. We were raiders. We were most known for our combat capability. Like, people would just give us what they wanted because we were that badass. They didn't want to fuck with us. But one of the things about it is we focused on the town in that game, but when a cryptid showed up, a couple of the teenagers were in danger, and it became an immediate problem because if they die, our town could literally stop existing because they are literally the only thing that is going to procreate for us right now. They are the future, and it's not like, oh, the kids are the future. It was this massive plot element because there's only 100 of us. If those kids die,
you've got maybe 10 people, if that, in that age bracket.
Yeah, and it's like, we cannot let anything happen to these kids. So I loved that it gave you those tools to like create the town, and I think more games should do that, like Fabula Ultima does. It gives you a lot of those tools within the system, and I feel like that is something that's been lacking from D&D. D&D gives you the Forgotten Realms, which is, I'm sorry, boring and not very interesting. It's not an interesting setting, but they give you no tool. But they don't really give you tools to create your own setting. They're like, you can create your own world, and here's a little information of how you might do this, but it's not helpful at all. And one of the last things I'm going to say about that, the Crypt is Open game, the guy who created it, Jeff Baker, I was in that game with him. And I did something he never even thought of for like the process of world building. And this is going to give you kind of like a little insight to how my mind works. So we end up stopping this cryptid, and we find out it was just one of our own town members using magic to basically, he was abused. Like, he wasn't abused, but like people didn't treat him like he was important. And now he wanted to be. My character goes, if you want to be a cryptid, you can go join them, and opened a door to the cryptid realm to shove him in. And the creator of the game goes, I never thought about there being a cryptid realm. I said, what do you mean? He goes, all the cryptids showed up. He goes, but I never thought of the fact that they had to come from somewhere. And you're with your character just opened up the thought that there is a whole realm of cryptids that I never thought of. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the way my mind thinks. They had to come from somewhere. So if this guy wants to be a cryptid so bad, go join the cryptids. Don't stay here with us. And I don't know, like, that's the kind of the way my mind thinks, and I don't think a lot of people process that when they're players.
I saw a setting and that was all about cryptids and stuff like that, where and it was based on the Appalachians. People are going to get mad at me, however I say it. I'm from the middle of it, so yell at me if you want to.
Appalachia.
Look, you're from farther north than I am. But there's like where the idea of the setting was based off of it, where the mountain range was like an ancient imprisonment for all these cryptids, and then over time this ancient mountain range eroded and got smaller and smaller, and stuff started to leak out. And I just love that for a concept. I can't remember where I picked that up. It was not my idea, but I remember it from somewhere. But yeah, so a lot of what you were talking about a minute ago was bottom-up world building, right?
Yes.
And I feel like It's not my favorite, but it is more useful a lot of times, a little less fun, and a lot better for beginners.
I think for the world builder, going top down is a lot more fun. Like you said, it's definitely more fun to think of the cosmos and the gods and the extraplanar entities. But how much of that is actually going to come up in your game, and how much of that are your players actually going to give two fucks about? None. They don't care about that unless it affects their character, which is why I think both methods have their merit. Like, if you know the theme of your world and you know that top-down stuff, because I'll admit, I struggle with, like I said, I struggle with town building. I struggle with, like, putting a city there, and that's what's most important to the players. Who's the blacksmith? Who's the tailor? Bob Taylor the tailor. That's the tailor. Go see him. Like it's harder for me to do that than it is to think of like the cosmos and all of the churning of the outer things. Like, my world is definitely built on a very Moorcockian type of system where its law and chaos are constantly at odds with one another.
Oh, you just made me so happy. It's
Yeah.
so rare that I hear somebody say those words. Elric is one of my favorite characters ever. I honestly think Michael Moorcock's way better than J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm gonna say it.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. And if you haven't read it, and somebody's out here listening and they're this far in, go get the Elric books, Song of the Black Sword, and The Stealer of Souls, and just read those from Song of the Black Sword to the end of The Stealer of Souls. We're talking about 12 to 1300 pages of awesome material. But Stormbreaker.
One of the reasons I really like Moorcock is his books are short. You can digest them. Where I try to read Lord of the Rings and I'm like, what in the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to read 10 languages. I just want a story. I don't know. And so, like I said, with Michael,
I like Tolkien, but as somebody who's dyslexic, I feel targeted. Like, you're gonna make me read a song. Ow.
I have never, and this is gonna get me hate. I don't like Lord of the Rings. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I've watched those movies and I'm like, what is the hype here? What is the story here? Why is everybody so concerned about a ring of invisibility? Like, I cannot grasp it. And everybody's like, Gandalf's so powerful. I'm like, where?
You got to get into the extended books for that one.
They have the books are a lot of fun, but I do have to skip all the songs.
I can't read them. I can't do it.
They don't.
Like I said, I feel Moorcocks are more interesting. Like, nobody's perfect in Moorcock's world, where in Tolkien the elves are just perfect. Like, everything about them is 100%. They're good. They're nice. They're beautiful. And
I don't like Tolkien's elves. They annoy me.
I prefer Moorcock, where the main focus is law and chaos, order and chaos, and like, if order is winning, you need chaos to bring order. Like, they go, and Moorcock will go into this realm where I think it was Corum went to the world of perfect order, and it was just one color and nothing existed. Like, it was boring. Wasn't that it?
Like, I think that was Elric.
Specifics.
I think that was Elric near the end of his journey, because the world, like the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos, were in open conflict at one point, and he ended up using that spell that brought every incarnation of Stormbringer from every reality possible into existence for a single attack against somebody. But like the world was becoming frozen
Okay.
and stagnant because order was taking over, and that just meant nothing changed. Order won. Everything is stagnant this way forever. And yeah, you need to bring the
So I
Lords of Chaos in to even get the world moving again.
so I just kind of turned off my like ears for a second there because now I intend to read the series. Uh,
Oh,
I got a
sorry.
lot of stuff about balance. No, you're good. I can just stop listening to things. Um,
Oh, so now I know what you're doing every time we're playing a game. And you get a slightly far away look in your eyes, like, oh, this motherfucker's not listening to the description of this
no,
room.
no, that was me wondering why the person who lives above me has dogs bigger than you, and their
Bigger than my
apartment
dogs?
is yes,
Holy hell. My dog's a dire
Mm.
wolf.
yeah. It's fucking huge. It's like a standard like something or other. And it comes up like up to my waist, and I'm like, I feel so bad for this dog because it is constantly running around, constantly barking, and there is not enough room for something that big
Yeah.
where I
Well,
live.
let's get
But
back
yeah,
to happiness, because that makes me sad.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
But
but yeah.
I
So I
love
guess we'll stop talking about Moorcock
Yeah.
now,
We'll have
since
a
you want to
I
get
private
do
into
like
discussion
the
about
order versus
Moorcock,
chaos though.
but I
I
love
do
the
like the order
concept.
versus chaos.
Well, the other concept I
I always
like,
describe.
the
Go.
Eternal Champion. The Eternal Champion concept for his writing is amazing, because basically every character, every one of his main characters, is really just another version of themselves. So Corum is a different version of Elric. Ericos is a different version of the two of them, and Hawkmoon is another fragment of them from their own respective multiverse.
And there's also Jerry Cornelius and all kinds. And I
Earl
believe
Aldic.
it actually goes as far as they are exactly the same person. Like the Eternal Champion
They merge in
can't
some
move
stories.
on to the next life. So like Elric, when he dies, he doesn't get to go to an afterlife and be at peace. He reincarnates into another universe, doesn't he? I don't know. I
We'll
haven't
talk
got to the end of
offline on
Elric,
this
but
one, because that's a spoiler and a fucking half.
Yeah,
but
I
basically they're like the same character.
Yeah,
okay.
great world building
I
idea.
will probably read this when I have time because I'm constantly
Well,
reading and it's never anything fun. But yeah, I guess I'll put this before I read Discworld because that's been also on my list for a while.
definitely read Moorcock.
Yeah,
It's easier to digest. The stories are shorter and to the point. Moorcock doesn't try to hit you with flowery words and verbiage. He hits you with what you need to know, and that's it. And I love it. I don't need George or J.R.R. Tolkien or George R.R. Martin who give me 5 pages of what the fucking food looks like. I don't give two shits. Tell me the story.
I read I read the Black Company and I enjoyed that. So I'll give it a shot.
sweet.
Okay, definitely
That was
recommend. But
that was
also
back in high
the
school
Eternal
when I had free time.
Champion. I don't want to say I stole that, but it is definitely a theme within my world, my setting and my homebrew world. There is the Eternal Champion. The concept exists, and the current one is a character I played in my friend John's game, and I didn't intend Halmir to be an Eternal Champion. But the way the story played out, and then I read the Moorcock books, I'm like, okay, I made an Eternal Champion, and I didn't even realize it. Like,
Yeah.
he,
One thing I do want to
If
give,
you
though,
read,
steal everything shamelessly. Like, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice for world building out there. Don't be afraid to lift something that somebody else did Give it your own polish and put it in your game. Do it.
A DM is only as good as their library.
I was gonna say skills and plagiarism, but yours is a lot more.
Eloquent.
Yes.
Because I stole
So, as a popular internet star once said, take the things you like and put it in your game.
Yeah. Because
I'm gonna say,
yeah.
go ahead.
Read. Stealing stuff from things you've read, especially obscure fantasy books, is great because 99% of the time your players will not get the reference, and if they do get the reference, they'll be like, "Hey, that's cool." Uh, like
Yeah.
your players aren't going to be mad; they're just going to be like, "That seems like fun."
And yeah, that's definitely, I think, the best way to put it. If you want to do effective world building, don't be afraid to steal stuff from other things. And there are so many different ways to world build. There's no right, there's no wrong. Whatever you feel comfortable with, even if you just use the Matt Colville My Campaign sheet, or if you want to start in a town or a city and you only use the city of Tolis, or you use a city from Spectacular Settlements, which highly recommend Tolis. Get it? It's like 650 pages and it's just a city.
Yeah, there's a lot of just great things that you can run in. Like I love the idea, and one day I will do it, where the entire game just takes place within a city, like levels 1 through 10. You don't leave the city. That sounds like so much fun.
I did that in Phase World for a center campaign. It's a center is an arcology. It's Rift's version of Planescape. Center is this miles like by miles cube that goes like 100 miles into the air on this planet, and you can have an entire adventure take place from the sub basement levels all the way up to like the top levels of this place. And there are portals in there to other realities, dimensions, different planets. You never need to leave, and you can just pop things in there that you want. There's an entire level of this city dedicated to interdimensional arms traders where they have their own set up like battlegrounds where you can go test these things, and combat arenas where they put bets on fights between people and power armor or giant robots or just using their powers. Yeah, Center is really cool. I should do some videos on Center.
I love a good arena fight. They're so much fun.
But all right, so to recap, top down is where you build the cosmos and you go smaller. Find a theme, as Fry said. Once you find the theme that you want for your campaign or your world, it's a lot easier. Number 2, bottom up, starting with a town, a local area. Also, don't be afraid to invest in your players or ask your players to flesh out a town for you. It's always helpful, always going to be useful, and I guarantee you they're going to come up with some a lot fucking cooler ideas than you. Don't be that DM that's like, oh, I'm so smart and everything I do is perfect. No, your players have fucking good ideas. Listen to them and let them contribute. And also, when you let them do that, they're going to be more invested because it was their idea.
It took me a lot of years to learn that lesson.
Yeah, steal from everybody. There's a great video that literally came out like a week and a half ago by Pointy Hat, and if you somehow know who we are but don't know who Pointy Hat is, they're a big YouTube creator for D&D.
I don't know.
They have almost 300,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Damn.
Yeah. And they've only been around for like a year and a half. It's crazy. But they have a great video on world building as well.
Also, there are a lot of people that probably are only looking at the D&D 5e books. There are a lot of really good OSR, NSR, other systems out there that you can buy just their world book, and their world books have a lot of fucking good ideas. And you can get them on PDF for like $5. It's worth it if you want to steal ideas or if you want to get concepts, I'm not going to promote the other way to get those on here, but you probably know.
I'll promote one, basicfantasy.org. They provide all of their materials for Basic Fantasy for free, and some of those are modules. There's nothing like world specific because they don't have like a core setting or anything, but there's a lot of equipment, monsters, and different supplements and adventure books. Totally worth checking them out, and they do print on demand.
Dragon mentioned it a little bit ago, but what is it? Spectacular Settlements is also great.
Yes.
You can probably get the PDF for like $20-$30. I think it's Nord Games. I could be wrong on that. Please don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. If you want to, like, you can sit down for 20 minutes and roll up anything from a trading post to a major city.
Also, another supplement that just is not out for popular consumption yet, but a couple of my friends have done it on TikTok. They've done reviews. It is called the Hex Crawl Toolbox. It is fucking amazing, and I am going to get it the minute it's for public consumption. It literally gives you a bunch of charts to make a hex crawl, and it gives you actually the little pieces to put together so you can visualize it, and it gives you papers to show you like the ways you can arrange them with a lot of information. It is fantastic. Hex Crawl Toolbox. They aren't sponsoring us, but they should.
I think we have a few people we need to get a hold of first for sponsorships.
Yeah.
We should start looking into that.
Well, eventually. But yeah,
right?
that's about all I've got for world building. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts for the end here. Or... I know we've been going about an hour and a half, haven't we?
Just about
something like that.
15. But no, I got nothing really else to add personally. You know, like I said, I like to start small, build outwards. So,
all right. I think that's the better thing to do, but I don't do it. That's really all I've got to say.
All right. Fry, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so I am making myself do content again on TikTok. You can find me there. Deep Fried Dice, but the Fry is my name, Frye, instead of like the correct spelling, just so I can annoy people. That's about it. I have a Twitch, but I haven't used it in well over a year, so I guess if you want to see like 3 episodes of a D&D play that isn't that good, you can go there.
You can find me at the Dragon X on TikTok. I am also a recurring and current member of the Beards and Barbarians Twitch stream, which I started last night, and we had a fantastic time. You can catch me every Friday there. Also, most Sunday nights, you can catch me on the Improv GM's Twitch stream, where we play Mask.
And I'm your host, Duality Complex. The links to socials are on the beginning and ending screen, but you can find me mostly over at TikTok at GM Duality Complex, where I talk about all things random TTRPG. So, thanks for joining us, everybody, and we will definitely do this again and see everybody next week.
See y'all.